Ladies and gentlemen, this is a small token of affection and respect for the one whose life was called Ariela.
On August 17th, 2025, Ariela Maya Polanco finished her shift at a Manhattan nightclub, got into a Mercedes-Benz SUV, and began to drive home to her two teenage children. She never made it. By 8 a.m. that Sunday morning, the 33-year-old Dominican influencer known as Langosta, to her 500,000 Instagram followers, will be found dead behind the wheel of her car on the Cross County Parkway in Mount Vernon, New York.
Tonight, many in the hip-hop and nightlife communities are mourning the death of 33-year-old Ariela Maya Polanco.
This isn't just another tragic story about random violence. This was what police immediately recognized as a targeted execution. Someone had deliberately hunted down a young mother whose only crimes were building a successful social media presence and working in New York's competitive nightlife industry. Ariela had appeared in rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine INE's Whoppy music video in 2023, worked as a hostess and bartender at some of Manhattan's hottest spots, and built a following that looked up to her for fashion inspiration and lifestyle content. What you're about to hear is more than just a story of Ariela's tragic death. It's an examination of the dangerous intersection between social media fame, nightlife work, and personal safety in modern America. It's about how a single mother trying to provide for her family became the target of violence that has left two teenagers without their mother and a community demanding answers that still haven't come.
City nightlife has lost an angel. Opus Lounge was closed on Monday night out of respect for the victim. Maya Polanco was shot dead Sunday morning while driving alone on the Cross County Parkway in Mount Vernon.
Stay tuned as we reveal everything about this case. Drop a comment and let me know what you think about this story. Welcome to our channel. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Like and share this video to help raise awareness and spread caution. Let's begin.
In March on social media, the victim showed off this luxury SUV, which appears to be the same vehicle she was driving Sunday.
Ariela Maya Polanco, known as Ariela Langosta, was a 33-year-old Dominican influencer and rising star in New York's nightlife. With over 500,000 Instagram followers, she shared fashion and modeling content. Her Instagram handle became her calling card in the competitive world of New York social media, where building a substantial following requires constant content creation, engagement, and strategic networking. But Ariela was much more than just another influencer trying to make it big. The mother of two was working multiple jobs to support her teenage children, balancing the demanding schedule of nightlife work with the responsibilities of single parenthood. This wasn't someone playing at being an influencer for fun. This was a woman building a brand and career to provide for her family's future. Langosta was a close friend of rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine, appearing in his 2023 Whoppy video. This connection to one of hip-hop's most controversial figures brought her additional attention and credibility in certain circles, but it may have also introduced complications into her life that she couldn't have anticipated. Celebrity connections in the hip-hop world can be both beneficial and dangerous, opening doors while potentially creating enemies or unwanted attention. The 33-year-old Dominican influencer worked as an exotic dancer and bartender, though different sources mention various roles in New York's nightlife industry. Maya Polanco worked as a hostess at the Opus Lounge in Inwood, while she left her job at Icon New York on Sunday morning the day she was killed. These positions in high-end Manhattan establishments required her to maintain a certain image, network with wealthy clients, and work late hours that put her on the streets during potentially dangerous times. The nightlife industry in New York is notoriously competitive and sometimes dangerous. Workers in this field often deal with intoxicated customers, large amounts of cash, and clients who may have unrealistic expectations about the nature of their professional relationships. For someone like Ariela, who was building her brand while working in these environments, the line between her professional persona and personal safety could become blurred. Her Dominican heritage was an important part of her identity and brand. The 33-year-old Dominican influencer often shared content that celebrated her culture, and she had built connections within New York's substantial Dominican community. This cultural connection provided her with a built-in audience and network, but also meant that her death would resonate particularly strongly within that community. The balance she maintained between her public persona and her role as a mother was particularly challenging. While she shared aspects of her lifestyle and work, she had to protect her children's privacy and safety while still creating content that would engage her followers and support her brand. This balancing act is something many influencer parents struggle with, but for someone working in nightlife, the stakes were even higher. The financial pressure supporting 2 teenage children as a single mother in one of the most expensive cities in the world likely drove many of her career decisions. New York nightlife work can be lucrative, but it's also unpredictable and competitive. Building a social media brand alongside this work represented an attempt to create multiple income streams and potentially transition to less risky forms of employment. What emerges from examining Ariela's life is a complex portrait of a woman trying to build success while navigating significant challenges. She wasn't just posing for Instagram photos. She was building a business, supporting her family, and trying to create opportunities in an industry that could be both rewarding and dangerous. The last day of Ariela Mejia Polanco's life began like many others, with her preparing for another shift in Manhattan's demanding nightlife industry, unaware that someone had already made a decision to end her life before she could make a home to her children. Saturday night, August 16th, into Sunday morning, August 17th, 2025, was a typical weekend for Ariela. She left her job at Icon New York on Sunday morning, finishing what would be her final shift at the Manhattan Cocktail Lounge, where she worked as part of her multiple job lifestyle, supporting her 2 teenage children. The details of her last hours at work remain private, but we know she was following her usual routine of finishing her shift and beginning the journey home. For someone who had done this commute countless times, there would have been no reason to suspect that this particular trip would be any different from the hundreds of others she had made safely.
Her body found in that vehicle not far from 42 Broad, where she rented an apartment. Mejia Polanco also owned a large home in the northern suburbs. Friends and family there declined comment.
She was shot dead on August 17th while driving her Mercedes SUV on the Cross County Parkway in Mount Vernon. The location and timing of the attack suggest her killer had intimate knowledge of her routine. The Cross County Parkway is a major highway that connects Manhattan to residential areas in Westchester County and the Bronx, making it a logical route for someone commuting from Manhattan nightlife work to home. Westchester County Police said Ariela Mejia Polanco, 33, was found dead from gunshot wounds in a car on the shoulder of the highway near the Broad Street exit. The specific location, near the Broad Street exit, indicates this wasn't a random highway shooting. Her attacker chose a specific point along her route, suggesting they knew exactly where and when to strike. Ariela Mejia Polanco, 33, was found dead around 8 a.m. behind the wheel of her car on the shoulder of the eastbound lanes. The 8 a.m. discovery time means she was likely attacked during the early morning hours when traffic would be lighter and witnesses scarce. This timing worked to the killer's advantage, providing fewer potential witnesses and more opportunity to escape undetected. She was found shot multiple times and killed in her car. The multiple gunshot wounds indicate this wasn't a crime of passion or a single impulsive act. Someone had made the deliberate decision to ensure Ariela would not survive this attack. The excessive force suggests either extreme rage or a professional approach to murder. The fact that Ariela was alone in her vehicle during the attack is significant. The 33-year-old was shot dead Sunday morning while driving alone in her car. If her killer knew she would be alone, it suggests they had been watching her routine long enough to understand her patterns. It also eliminated potential witnesses who might have been in the car with her. The Mercedes SUV she was driving has become a crucial piece of evidence in the investigation. The 33-year-old Dominican influencer was found dead in her Mercedes-Benz, and she was found shot to death in her black Mercedes-Benz G-Class. The specific vehicle may have made her easier to identify and track, as luxury SUVs stand out on the highway and will be memorable to anyone planning an attack. The location where her car was found, on the shoulder of the highway, raises questions about whether she pulled over before being shot, was forced to stop, or if her car ended up there after the shooting. These details would be crucial to understanding exactly how the attack unfolded and whether Ariela had any opportunity to call for help or attempt to escape. The investigation into Ariela Mejia Polanco's murder immediately took on the characteristics of a high-priority case, with multiple agencies recognizing that they were dealing with sophisticated, planned execution rather than a random act of violence. The challenge investigators faced was not determining whether this was intentional murder. That was obvious from the scene, but figuring out who had both the motive and capability to carry out such a targeted attack. Westchester County Police said Ariela Mejia Polanco, 33, was found dead from gunshot wounds in a car on the shoulder of the highway near the Broad Street exit, and their preliminary assessment was immediate and definitive. Police said the preliminary investigation determined the woman was likely targeted and that it was not a random shooting. One potential lead that emerged involved Ariela's personal relationships. Nada Cartier was identified as Ariela Langosta's boyfriend and was detained by New York police for questioning after her death. However, no official suspects or motives have been confirmed. The detention of her boyfriend for questioning is standard procedure in intimate partner homicides, but the fact that he was released without charges suggests either he was cleared or investigators didn't have sufficient evidence to proceed. The investigation became more complex when connections to broader criminal activities emerged. Reports from Dominican outlet El Caribe have linked Cartier to Operation Mayweather, an investigation into a criminal network involved in illicit activities. This connection raises a possibility that Ariela's murder might be connected to larger criminal enterprises rather than personal motives. The lack of arrest, despite the clearly targeted nature of the attack, suggests several possible scenarios. The perpetrator might be someone with experience in avoiding law enforcement, possibly someone with connections to organized crime who understand how to plan and execute murders without leaving evidence. Alternatively, the killer might have fled the area or even the country, making apprehension more difficult. The investigation has had considered multiple potential motives given Ariela's complex life circumstances. Her work in nightlife could have exposed her to dangerous individuals or situations. Her social media presence could have attracted stalkers or people with unhealthy obsessions. Her celebrity connections could have made her a target for people with grudges against those celebrities. Her personal relationships could have involved domestic violence or romantic triangles that escalated to murder. Law enforcement have been careful not to release details about physical evidence, witness statements, or specific leads they're pursuing. This silence could indicate they have sensitive information that could compromise the investigation if made public, or it could reflect the fact that they have limited evidence and are still working to develop concrete leads. The forensic evidence from the scene, ballistics, DNA, fingerprints, and potentially surveillance footage from nearby businesses or traffic cameras would be crucial to solving the case. However, investigators haven't shared what evidence they've collected or what it might tell them about the perpetrator. The timing of the attack during early morning hours on a weekend suggests the killer understood that there would be fewer witnesses and less traffic to contend with. Ariela Mejia Polanco's murder illuminates a dangerous reality that many social media influencers and content creators face, but rarely discuss publicly: the intersection between online fame, personal safety, and the predators who view digital popularity as an opportunity rather than someone's livelihood. Her death forces us to confront how the pursuit of followers, engagement, and brand building can inadvertently create vulnerabilities that traditional safety advice never anticipated. The influencer lifestyle requires constant documentation and sharing of personal information that previous generations would have considered private. Location tags, work schedules, daily routines, favorite restaurants, shopping locations, and even travel plans become content designed to build engagement and relatability with followers. With over 500,000 Instagram followers, she shared fashion and modeling content, which means Ariela regularly posted photos and videos that revealed details about her appearance, locations, and lifestyle. For someone working in New York's nightlife industry, this level of public sharing created particular risks. She was a nightlife icon at clubs, including Opus Lounge in Inwood, and worked as a hostess at the Opus Lounge in Inwood while also working at Icon New York. These work locations, posted on social media or discoverable through her content, gave potential stalkers or dangerous individuals concrete information about where to find her and when. The nightlife industry itself presents unique dangers that are amplified by social media presence. Workers in this field often deal with intoxicated customers, handle large amounts of cash, and interact with people whose judgment may be impaired by alcohol or drugs. When you add a substantial social media following to this mix, the risks multiply exponentially. Ariela's connections to celebrities, particularly appearing in rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine INE's 2023 WAPI video, brought additional visibility and credibility to her brand. But celebrity associations in the hip-hop world can also attract unwanted attention from people with criminal intentions. Tekashi 6ix9ine himself has been involved in legal troubles and gang-related activities, and connections to such figures can make associates targets for violence. The investigation into Ariela's murder raises questions about whether her killer was someone from her online world, her professional life, or her personal relationships. Police are exploring different possibilities, including whether the shooting was intended for her or for Cartier, suggesting that the motive might be connected to people in her life rather than her online presence. But the targeted nature of the attack shows someone had detailed knowledge of her routine and whereabouts. The most immediate impact of Ariela's murder is on her 2 teenage children, who must now navigate life without their mother while grappling with the public nature of her death. The mother of 2 was their primary provider and emotional anchor, and her violent death has created trauma that extends far beyond the immediate family. These children must now process not only their grief, but also the public discussion of their mother's murder and the speculation about motives and suspects. For the influencer community, Ariela's murder represents a worst-case scenario that many content creators worry about, but hope will never happen to them. With over 500,000 Instagram followers, she shared fashion and modeling content, making her relatable to thousands of other influencers who post similar content and face similar decisions about how much of their personal lives to share online. Law enforcement agencies are struggling to adapt to crimes that span digital and physical worlds. Police said a preliminary investigation determined the woman was likely targeted and that it was not a random shooting, but determining how she became a target in an age of social media, celebrity connections, and complex personal relationships requires investigative skills that traditional police training may not have covered. The economic implications of Ariela's murder extend beyond her immediate family to questions about the sustainability and safety of influencer careers. If building a social media presence inherently increases personal danger, society needs better systems for protecting people whose livelihoods depend on public visibility. This might include improved platform safety features, better law enforcement training, or new legal frameworks for addressing digital stalking and harassment. The international nature of social media means that threats to American influencers can come from anywhere in the world, complicating law enforcement responses and making prevention more difficult. Someone fixated on Ariela could have been following her content from another country, studying her routines, and planning violence without appearing on local authorities' radar until it was too late. The case exposes gaps in how social media platforms handle user safety. While platforms have policies against harassment and threats, they're not designed to identify users who might be studying other users' content for criminal purposes. Someone planning to harm an influencer could follow their content, study their routines, and plan attacks without ever directly threatening or harassing their target. Her story serves as a case study in the intersection of technology, celebrity culture, economic inequality, and violence against women. These complex factors don't exist in isolation, but combine to create conditions where some people face elevated risks simply by trying to build careers and support their families in the modern economy. As we reach the end of Ariela Mejia Polanco's story, we must remember that behind the headlines about influencer culture and social media dangers was a 33-year-old woman who woke up on August 17, 2025, expecting to return home safely to her teenage children after finishing her shift. The mother of 2 deserved to live, to continue building her career, and to watch her children grow up. Her murder represents not just a personal tragedy, but a societal failure to protect people whose only crime was trying to build a better life for their families. Police said the preliminary investigation determined the woman was likely targeted and that it was not a random shooting. Yet months later, no arrests have been made. Someone planned and executed the murder of a young mother, and that remains a fact.